Hi, I'm Reggie Ponder, the Real Critic, and this is the Real Critic Roundtable, where African American critics come to discuss, debate, and have some fun. We had some fun last week, but let me see who was not here. Oh, it was Sean. Sean wasn't here last week. Did he forsake us? Did he leave us?
It was
For
fine.
better
We had
past?
Ladies' Day.
What'd you say, Katya?
It was fine. We had Ladies' Day. Not to say that we didn't miss them, but it was nice to have the women to be the majority.
Yeah, I had to put on. I had to put on my Zoom suit, man. Legal meetings, man. These network deals are complicated. So,
well, I'm happy.
I'm trying to do big boy stuff.
I'm with that because I would like to do big boy stuff too.
Yeah, it's gonna benefit everybody.
Sean Edwards back to the table. Good. Hey, Sean, welcome back, man.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd much rather do this, man. That stuff's complicated, but we working through it. Yeah, some good stuff on the horizon. Some great stuff on the horizon.
Oh man, I'm excited. I'm really excited to hear that. And then welcome my friend Katya Woods back. Hey, Katya.
Hey. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna jump into it because we got a lot to do, right?
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
Lot to get into. So Katya, there is this film that everybody's talking about. Well, there's actually two, and we'll talk about both of them. But it is Zack Snyder's Justice League, and this, wow, tell us what this one's about, and tell us how you feel about it.
It's for those that don't know, Zack Snyder was the original director for Justice League. He lost a child, which is sad, you know what I mean, and naturally had to pull back from the movie. I mean, ain't nobody making no movies when you lose your child, but they brought in Josh Whedon, right? That horrible man. And he then finished the movie, and people didn't like Justice League, me being one of them. But there were these cuts out there, and the bros, as I like to call them, which is a polite term for them, release the Snyder cut. They released the Snyder cut, and they started this whole campaign on Twitter, and I think that might have been a written petition. And it somehow worked, and Zack went back with the blessing of Warner Brothers and put together his version of what he wanted Justice League to be. The upside is Ray Fisher gets more screen time. The downside is the thing is freaking 4 hours. God, Lord Jesus, you know what I mean? In a year where the average movie is 2 hours, this man gave us a movie for 4 hours. The good news is it is on HBO Max. So if you don't want to sit for 4 hours, you can break it up. You can do 2 hours, go about your life, come back and see the other 2 hours. So here's the question. Is it better than the one that was sent out to theaters? My opinion is I think it is better. I just don't think we needed 4 hours for it to be told. I do like the fact that Ray Fisher gets to have his moment and the role. He's not a sidekick, you know what I mean? I'm one of those people. I'm not a huge fan of Ben Affleck as Batman. I think he's not the most convincing Batman, you know what I mean? I like Christian Bale better, but you do get a little bit, the story's more developed. Again, I just don't think you needed it 4 hours for it to say. And the moral of the story is these folks finally got their movie. And the other part of Zack Snyder is he has adopted Asian children. And there's been a lot of disgusting behavior by these groups of people, including some against the Asian community. And he basically, as he should, got out and said he's not for the crap. And some of these people have now turned on him. Ridiculous. But the point is, they got their cut and they still complaining.
They got their cut and they're still complaining. Sean.
Well, I'm gonna set all those other issues aside, focus just on the movie. The first movie wasn't any good. It was dreary, it was slow, it didn't create any excitement, there were no new storylines created. This is just more of the same. It's bloated. It's overlong, it's exhausting and excruciating to watch. More importantly, it's not fun. It's not energetic. It's brooding, it's moody, it's dark, it's slow, it's troubling, and it's a 4-hour complete waste of time in the story, in the
Wow.
review.
Wow, Sean. I don't agree with that. I think that well, I don't agree with all that. I think that the 4 hours, obviously, that's problematic.
Well, they knew it
Anything
was too long. That's why it's broken up into 4 parts.
that anything that's 4 hours, it does have a problem with it. But I felt that it kept my attention enough.
Not necessarily. There have been some long movies that work. This one just doesn't.
Wow. Wow. Well, it worked for me. What it did for me is that it showed me that Marvel, not Marvel, but that
DC.
the DC could have a franchise that could compete with Marvel. I felt like that this was the closest film that could even say, I know that's not saying much, but I think it was the closest film, at least for me, that looked like, okay, these characters, people would watch Marvel. And I saw a lot of parallels, obviously, in this movie with Avengers, Infinity War, and this film, from the magic, the mother boxes and Infinity Stones to the crazy young superhero. I don't know. I liked it a little bit better. No, I liked it definitely better than the other one. And I didn't think it was more of the same. I actually thought it was different, and I thought it was bold. One of the things you talk about a lot, Sean, so I'd like to, I know you said in the review, but I'd like to engage you in this, is that you talk about somebody swinging for the fences. And I think that Snyder did that. I don't think he got a home run, but I also don't think that he got a dribbler to the mound. So I
So
like.
what did he do? What did he do different that we hadn't seen before?
I mean, he definitely developed the other characters more. The other characters in the original one were just kind of
But
there.
that's not developing a character is not swinging for the fences.
No, I mean, in your opinion, but it's definitely, you get a better introduction, you know what I mean, of who it is. I agree with Sean that I love Justice League, the cartoon. I do think in the right hand, that is the thing, that is the entity, if they want to compete with Marvel, that they have to get down. You have to fix Justice League, you know, and also is there's been the inconsistency in the casting of your quote unquote cornerstone characters, which is like Batman and Superman. The other thing too is if we're going to go, if you're going to have that discussion on trying to go head toe to toe with Marvel, is you got to develop the other people. The whole fiasco with Ray Fisher also hurt this movie in some ways. You know what I mean? Because you have two different entities saying something, and then when you see the film and you see him, and you're like, oh, it makes sense. But again, I don't think, I agree with you, Reggie. It is better than the original. I don't think you needed 4 hours to say it.
Yeah.
And I think, again, it needed to move a little faster. And Justice League, at least the version that I love, the things that I loved about it, the comic books and everything, was that teamwork, that excitement, the adrenaline, that wasn't there for me.
So for me,
Can we say something though? Because I keep hearing this pop up.
But you asked me a question, so maybe I can
go ahead.
Then you can weave this
right.
in your thing. For me, I thought that the swinging for the fences is that, to me, this was firstly much better. It felt more cohesive, and that might be a bad thing, saying it felt more cohesive, because there were some inconsistencies, definitely with some of the transitions or whatever. But I thought that I felt that I knew these characters better as a team than I felt in the first one. And that's how come I said that I felt from a perspective of competing with Marvel. I thought the action was good. I thought the storytelling was good. I just think that 4 hours is just too, well, at least for this, because you do make a good point about that someone can tell a story in 4 hours. I just think that if you need 4 hours, it's probably a little bit problematic. So I just wanted to put that in there.
No, those are good points. But here's the thing I do want to say is, and I'm by no means, and you can go check every review I've ever written on the 22 films out of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm no huge fan of Marvel, but DC can't compete against that ship sailed. It's way too late. Marvel's already evolved with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier and WandaVision. They're already on a whole nother level. They've left DC so far behind that there's no catching up. Marvel are the Harlem Globetrotters. DC are the Washington Generals.
Well, with that, for me, this one was a watch it. I hate to go to you, Sean, but
hell no, hell no. Zack Snyder's a horrible director. Hell no.
All right, Sean is not
hell
a
no.
Not a no. All right,
hell no.
Katya.
If you one of the bros, enjoy.
All right, well, that's good. Well, we're gonna get into this. We're gonna get into the next film, and gonna have you talk about this one. Bring this one in for us, Sean. And this is the Genius piece, and tell us what it's about and what you thought about.
Okay, before I start, can we all virtually just hold hands together, say a little prayer, give some mad respect and love to the all-time greatest contemporary female vocalist that ever existed, not just on planet Earth, but on the universe. Miss Aretha Franklin, the queen of soul, the queen of everything, that the best that ever did it. And this is the best we can get. Oh my goodness. I number one, I was completely heartbroken. I was completely shattered. I was destroyed. I was in tears for all the wrong reasons. I'm glad that they wanted to produce this. I like the Genius concept. You know, I like the fact that it's episodic. I like the fact that it's a series. We just talked about a film that was 4 hours. Perhaps Justice League would have been better served as a series. So you can expand on those things further and make it even longer, but it's not one movie. It's a series. So I like the setup, the Genius setup. I like the fact that they chose to feature Aretha Franklin in the third installment of the Genius franchise. Woo! Yeah, everything about this series was problematic, from the writing to the casting, to the directing, to the execution, to the juxtaposition from young Aretha to young adult Aretha to grown Aretha to the end of her career Aretha. It didn't work. Man, Cynthia Erivo, man, she gave it her best, man. She tried, man. She laid it all out there. Yeah, she can sing and she can act. She's supremely talented. It just did not work for this.
And so when you talk about the casting, Sean, I want to dig in on that. What was problematic for you from a casting perspective?
Maybe it was just me. I never bought that Cynthia Erivo was Aretha Franklin. Man, Courtney Vance is my dude. Like, he's been just killing it for years. But man, that he was just so over the top. It almost got to the point in certain scenes. It was almost like, for me, it was cartoonish on many levels. But my biggest problem with it was the execution and the writing. I mean, there were, because I am very familiar with Aretha Franklin. She's one of my all-time favorite artists. I've written extensively about her. And if you were a novice to her journey in her career going into this series, you had to have been lost. I mean, there were times when the only time you could really check the timestamp was by looking at the hair pieces and trying to determine where are we right now, what period of time are we dealing with. It just jumped back and forth too much. And the series, the biggest problem I had is the series is called Genius. There was very little focus on her genius in execution as a vocalist,
as an artist,
a songwriter, as an artist in general. And so much of it was focused on the family drama, and so much of it was focused on her brooding and being upset, where you really couldn't get inside of her artistic head and watch the magic happen. And then my final thought is, a TV movie going to always be a TV movie.
Got you.
Well, I have problems with Suzanne Laurie Parks as a screenwriter. All you have to do is look at Native Son. That was a mess, right? And my issue is people tend to blame the actor. The actor can only work with what is on the page. That is not Cynthia's fault. She can only work with what she's given. She was not in charge of writing the script. She was not in charge of costuming. She was not in charge of directing. She showed up and did what she was supposed to do. The other thing that I did like that Cynthia said, she did not go into this trying to mimic Aretha Franklin as far as singing, because she had a very distinctive song. She tried to embody, voice. She tried to embody the spirit. And I think that was a smart approach, because Cynthia has an out of this world amazing voice, but it's a different type of voice than Aretha. So, that's one thing that is also very important, to do these songs justice. Like, to have somebody come in there and just be singing any other type of way, the internet would really lit them up. I think the reason they focused a lot on her private life is because she never talked about that aspect of her life. Aretha was extremely private, especially about her early pregnancies and all of that. You know what I mean? She never spoke about.
For you, Katya, as it relates to that, though, is that the point about, I'd like for you to address while you're talking, is this point about, though, talking about her genius. Is that?
Well, I think a little bit. You saw it. They didn't go into it directly, but I kind of, once you realize that they focused so much on the family, that wasn't, they wanted you to know the person. Now, granted, it is called Genius, so you didn't get to know more about her, the artist, you know what I mean? You saw glimpses of it, but once you saw that there was so much focus on her family life, you kind of knew that was what the serious intent was, for you to get to know Aretha the person, not so much the artist, because most of us, there are very few people that don't know Aretha Franklin. Like, seriously.
Yeah, but
you know what I mean?
I feel you. I really do feel you. But we talked about it. We won't get into it today. The Tina piece, where it didn't talk about her genius. You and I just talked a little earlier about Beyonce and her genius and so on and so forth. Is that I do really see where Sean is coming from when we talk about, it's called genius. So I love.
Again, that's a conversation to have with Suzanne, and them. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, and that's not a. That wasn't a comment.
My point about this is that Cynthia is bearing the brunt of this critique, and she is. Don't shake your head, because there's a lot. Yes, she is. They are blaming her. They're not blaming the people that they need to blame. You gotta do on social media, Sean. Don't shake your head.
But hold on, but you gotta be fair though. You gotta be fair. Remember though, this was on National Geographic. So that's the problem when you service the general public with mediocre product. Regular people don't know the filmmaking process. Like, so when regular people watch something and they critique it, when they make their like average person critique, of course, the actor is going to take the brunt of the critique, because average people who are watching, they don't know anything about the screenwriting process. They don't know what a screenwriter does, or what a producer does, or what a costume designer does. All they know is Cynthia Erivo is portraying Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul, who a large amount, I'm not going to say everybody, because that's a huge, but a fair amount of people have surface knowledge level of Aretha Franklin. So when they see something they don't like, or it's something that doesn't play the way they thought it would play, no, they're not going to attack the director. They don't know who directed this. This is not a high profile directing project. They don't know about the process of filmmaking. So that may be why Cynthia Erivo is unfairly getting the brunt of the critiques. But the three of us are professionals. And by no means am I saying that this thing didn't work because of Cynthia Erivo. It starts with the writing and the producers, because this, like, I'm going to always go back to, this is called Genius, and I saw the one on Einstein, and I saw the one on Picasso, and they did delve more into the genius of those guys. like, I don't mind finding out more about Aretha Franklin's like family and the turmoil and all of that, but I actually learned more about the personal turmoil of C.L. Franklin than I did Aretha Franklin. Like, there was no explanation of why she chose to marry each of the men she decided to marry. There, you know, you learn way more about all the traumatic and crazy stuff that C.L. Franklin did. This is not Genius, the C.L. Franklin story. This is Genius, the Aretha Franklin story. And she got overshadowed by her dad in this thing. I mean, out of the 8 episodes, 6 of them heavily focused on the shenanigans that C.L. Franklin went through. And you learn far more about C.L. Franklin than you ever learned about Aretha Franklin in these 8 series.
And for
8-part
me,
series.
Katya, I don't know if I want to go through through that 8. You know, if this was an 8 that I want to sit through and watch, I'm struggling because
It's a lot.
and the reason I'm struggling is because I like Cynthia Reed. I don't
yeah,
think.
I mean, I think again, I mean, I am going to speak up for Cynthia because at the end of the day is, you know, we have this thing in our community where we like to, not us, because we're professional, people like to come for people without any type of backing, like we in high school. And it's like, pause, you know? And I do look at Suzanne and I'm like, you letting this girl get beat up when you were the one who wrote this mess. You need to be the one, hey, I wrote it. You know what I mean? You need to speak up for your talent. So I'm even looking at her harder sideways.
Well, we got to say,
I knew it was going to be a mess because Suzanne has a track record of writing mess.
That's great.
So there is problem.
That's
the problem. You know what I mean? And again, Courtney, all of them could only do what they were given to do. Now, I agree. Like we got to, there are certain parts of it were very uncomfortable. It seemed very, what's the word? Very, oh God, very tabloidy. Sorry, that's the thing. Like
soap opera.
We're going for shock value. You know what I mean? There were moments that you thought, okay, maybe we're back on track, but we're not. But again, if you want to learn about Aretha, this is not, I think, the vehicle for you to learn at all.
So is this a watch it for you, Katya?
No.
Is it no? I don't even want to hear you say it again, Sean, because you already just said it about it. But go ahead, Sean.
I just think it's time to put Suzanne's. Do they still put like pictures of criminals up? Because I haven't been to a post office in 10 years. They still put pictures of criminals up in the post office.
No, they don't.
Well, if they did, Suzanne's picture should be up in the post office because she officially killed Billie Holiday and she just killed Aretha Franklin. So she's a legend killer because she wrote United States versus Billie Holiday. And it has the exact same problems as this.
And
this
she wrote the remaking of Native Son. Like, the thing worked. We didn't need you to remake it.
Yeah, somebody needs to take her laptop away right now.
Well, you heard it here. That's it for the movies. We got just.
Well, let's just give it. Hey, look, I'm more hopeful with Respect starring Jennifer Lawrence.
Tina though, because that is a different type. We got to discuss Tina for a little bit though.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
The Tina film is interesting in a different type of way, right? Tina Turner is somebody we think we know, but we don't. That's the difference between her and Aretha Franklin, where we knew a lot about her life. Tina's life, we were given a interpretation of her life, and this film really gets into her life. Right?
I agree with that.
And you get to know Anna Mae or Martha Bullock in this film, not Tina Turner. And you get to hear it from her. And boy, does my heart break for this woman. Oh my God. To not have love in your life until you're 50 years old is heartbreaking. The way her existence was so isolated. And, you know, and I say this to people all the time, you all be thinking that these entertainers are living these glamorous lives, these fun lives, and everything is perfect. I mean, obviously we know about the beatings with Ike and everything, but just like her talking about her mother talking about her, you like, Jesus, God, you know what I mean? It's really, really heartbreaking.
What you got, Sean?
Well, we got to set this up for our viewers, and I haven't seen it, but I can already figure out why this worked better than Genius. Just so our viewers know, the Tina movie is a documentary.
Yeah.
It's not a feature. See, that's I would have much rather seen a documentary on Aretha Franklin if someone would have done it while she was still alive, but she would probably never agree to have done it. But that's probably why the Tina thing is much better. It's a documentary. It's not a feature film. It's not a series. So those are completely two different animals.
No,
So just so the viewers understand,
Also, she's the narrative. She's the narrator in her story, and
Right.
she really she pulled back the Band-Aid. I'm talking like, and
she did.
You hear her pain talking about her mom. Go ahead, Reggie, because
this one is to me absolutely worth watching. There's stuff missing in it though. There's stuff you leave this film asking questions. But what I don't leave the film asking is, why do I care? So with the previous one, you're like, well, do I really care about all this stuff? I mean, it does feel kind of soap opera. This doesn't. It gives me a reason to follow the narrative. I do wish that there was more about her genius as well. So it's really interesting that we talk about this, but because I guess these lives are so complicated, and what you're trying to do here is that it's an hour, hour and a half. I think
almost 2 hours.
It's 2 hours. So it's a lot to learn about Tina, but I think they do a good job. I think when you leave here, you won't say, I wasted my time. I think you will leave asking some questions.
See, well, see, Reggie, you are so smart. I'm glad you just said that, because it goes back to your earlier point you made with Justice League. The length of a movie or a documentary doesn't matter if the subject matter is compelling and the storytelling is strong. Like you just said, a 4-hour Tina Turner documentary probably would have been justified.
You're right.
But not a 4-hour Justice League movie.
Fine. You make me mad.
Well, the other thing that we also have to talk about as far as this movie, our community, her relationship with our community. It is broken. It is very broken. And some of it is her. Some of it was her making a conscious decision, probably because of everything she went through. And I'm not saying that makes it right, but everybody processes their trauma differently. So who am I to judge? Where she has decided to check out of the Black community and tap into the white community because she felt more loved and supported and respected there. We have a very weird ideology that Ike and Tina were these hit makers, were these tremendous things. No, they weren't. They didn't have that many hits. What made them exhilarating is their live show. And they were bigger stars overseas than they were here in the United States. If it wasn't for overseas, they probably wouldn't have eaten. So she has a very, rightfully so, we have not appreciated the Ike and Tina brand like we have our other oldies, you know what I mean?
That's a great point.
Especially, no matter how you feel about Ike the person, go ahead and do what you gotta do. But Ike the musician was on point.
And I want to make one other point to that, and I do want to kind of move to some of our issues really quick, because I know our show is going to be a little shorter. Is that I think they also did a good job of not killing Ike. He's already been killed. Yeah. He's already dead, but they didn't kill him. And what I mean by that is that they gave him some dimension. They gave him some credit for.
Yeah, they did.
That's what was missing from Genius. They killed, they murdered C.L. Franklin.
About, because I really was like, this woman is really disconnected from us as a people. And there is some underlining things that I kind of wanted them to get into for her to verbalize why she's disconnected. Do you know what I mean?
I would like that.
And I understand that probably was a hard conversation to have, but some of it is us, because we haven't reached out. We haven't said, you know what, Tina, we done gave all these other divas their flowers. Where is the Image Award? Where is the BET to say, Tina Turner, you were the rock and roller. She's one of the few Black women in rock and roll to have tremendous success. And this woman became a success at 40, not 25, not 35, during a time where women still aren't respecting the music industry like that.
So you're
Tina
not gonna
came
let
in
it go.
became
You're
the
not gonna
first.
let it go because you're so excited about this one.
I mean, it is because I think it's important.
I like that you are. I want to say one other thing on this is
I'm done.
that your excitement is actually warranted because they do take you through some emotions in this.
How much does this thing course correct what Love's got to do with it though? Because that was a very flawed movie in terms
So
of the accuracy.
It corrects a lot of it. It corrects the relationship with her mother. It corrects the relationship.
Thank God.
How her and Ike got together. You know what I mean? That it wasn't, that she wasn't this burgeoning flower. She already had a kid when she
by a band member.
You know what I mean? And exactly. So
it doesn't, I will say this though, Sean, is that the kid stuff, it doesn't really get into.
It doesn't get into.
That's why I say it's not a clean piece.
Oh, okay.
Because they gloss over a few things. They let you know
because she's telling it. Because she's telling the story.
But she's not talking about her kid. But she does admit she wasn't the best parent. That I can respect.
She does admit that, but you don't get a lot about the kids.
People don't tell the truth like that.
You don't get a lot about the kids and stuff like this. But this is worth watching. I'm say watch it.
I'll watch it tonight. I'm gonna watch it tonight.
Yeah, I mean she's.
So text me, Sean.
You're gonna be like, damn, Tina.
I know, Sean, you're not doing social media because I would tell you to put some on social media and say what you thought about this one because I do want to know.
Yeah, I might be done with social media forever.
Yeah, that's good. That's great. The way they treat Cynthia Erivo, I can understand it. So I'm with you on that.
People don't know that. That's why we educating the people. Lay off of Cynthia Erivo. She wasn't a producer.
You get on Suzanne, tell her like Sean said, retire Suzanne. You done had 3 shots and you done screwed them all up. Let it go, girl.
Horrible. So I want to get into a couple of issues. I probably got about 5 minutes with Sean.
We can go 10. We can go 10.
But one of your first questions, Sean, this week was, should the Golden Globes be replaced? I'm gonna say, look, is the problem that they have no Black people? Is the problem that it's a small group of people who make the decision? Is it the fact that diverse storytelling is snubbed? What made you ask this question?
Well, because it's being talked about in the industry. There was an article that came out, and then that's part of what I've been doing, sitting in on the legal meetings, because there's a lot of stuff going on behind closed doors in terms of networks and award shows, and everybody's trying to sort everything out. But there's this push, perhaps by NBC, where they stated they may pull the plug on the Golden Globes contract and replace it with another show that's perhaps a little more diverse behind the scenes. This is a big problem that I think a lot of people need to understand. It's more than the Golden Globes not having any Black representation amongst its membership. I mean, that's the starting point. But what a lot of people don't really understand is it's not about that. It's about the money play. It's about where the money's going, and it's about holding the network accountable. But more than that, the network is just the conduit. It's about holding the advertisers. No one's talking about, why aren't we talking about boycotting these advertisers that have been supporting the Golden Globes? Because without the advertisers, there's no show, and then there's no network deal. So you have all these factions who are supporting this, and I haven't heard anyone call out all the studios and streamers who also go out of their way to support the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, because they could shut this all down immediately. So there hasn't been because they know all the studios and the streamers are well aware of who's a part of their membership. So that, everybody's trying to like turn a blind eye to this situation. They've known about this. And how the Hollywood Foreign Press can ignore years and years of change is beyond me. I mean, they went through the whole civil rights movement and didn't see it fit to add any Black members. They went through the whole decade of the 70s where the NAACP was constantly boycotting Hollywood. You went through the entire 80s, which was the decade of affirmative action. You still added no Black members. Then you went through the 90s where the NAACP again spent the entire decade boycotting Hollywood. You ignored Me Too. You ignored the whole George Floyd incident. We've talked several times on this show about how George Floyd opened the door for a lot of Black journalists to get work under the guise of social change and protest. And the Hollywood Foreign Press still did nothing. but they've been supported and aided by the studios, the streamers, the television network, and the advertisers, and no one's saying a word.
Katya, jump in.
Well, it's like an old dinosaur. You know, the foundation is weak. If the foundation is weak, everything around it is going to be weak. And the other thing is, open the books and let us see the members. Why can't we know who's a member?
We know who the members are. What do you mean?
No,
we know.
I'm talking about you should be able to go to the Hollywood Foreign Press site and see all the pictures and who is where. Because if they would have had that, the jig would have been up even more sooner.
But they know.
But the problem is,
do know.
you can't have anything happen if you don't have transparency. That's the problem. Also, everything's happening behind closed doors.
But everybody knows.
The other thing too is I don't think, I mean, it's nice, you know, the requirements, the membership needs to be reworked. It's very antiquated. You don't need to live in California in order to be a good entertainment journalist, you know? For a lot of international journalists don't live in California, they live in New York because it's more feasible for them to live in New York. So there's some other things to think about. But as a whole, I agree with Sean. As long as the powers of being support it, all of this other stuff is never going to change. You know, you can't have a studio say, oh, they need to change, but behind closed doors, they're cutting the checks and they want to keep the status quo. So at the end of the day is, you know, we can scream bloody murder. They can rework and make their memberships visible and all this other stuff. But if people are still cutting those checks and everything, then, you know, it's just, as I like to call it, performative art.
I really love the fact that Sean, when I first had my very first show with you, the first thing you talked about was the money. And what people keep getting confused is we talk about representation matters. It matters that we're at the table, but it matters that we get a piece of the pie. That's what a representation really matters. And the fact that the money doesn't trickle down I don't even want to say trickle down. That's like you getting it secondary. The fact that the money doesn't pass through, that you don't get a cut of the money, to just think that you're going to put Katya Woods and Sean Edwards on the foreign press, that's not going to do it for me. That is not going to do it for me.
That's performative art.
I want to know who's getting paid.
That's the easy, right, Reggie? That's the easy. The easy part is they're talking about we're going to make our membership 15% Black. Okay, that's easy, but you still got 85% and they're getting checks. Like Reggie said, this thing is about, see, everybody's talking about the wrong thing. You don't ever have to have no Black members. They can create an auxiliary where they pick a couple of foundations or create a charitable arm and distribute the money. And who wants to be a part of an organization when you're forced to be a part of the membership? Does that ever work?
Yeah, and so that's a good point. And then Katya, you have always said to me, Reggie, make sure you know what you're getting paid, because you've been about the money too. So the thing I love about you two is that you both know that it's not just about getting a seat.
No, if you're gonna invite people that look like us, I want all the perks of the membership as everybody else. It's like if you're at the country club, I don't want an associate membership. I want the full membership. Don't matter if I'm going to use the pool or the locker room or the bar. The point is, I want to have the option, if I choose to have access to all of that. You know what I mean? And that means, again, there needs to be a commitment by them to give that advertising money to minority outlets, to Latinx outlets, to Black outlets. And the other thing too is, you know, the access, all of those things. But again, I don't want this to be a watershed moment where, okay, we got caught with our pants down. The publicists screamed bloody murder and said they're not going to let their talent come to the award show, all of this. And then 3 years, it's like with Oscar So White, and then we go right back to the BS.
Yeah. So I want to get back to the question real quick. Should the Golden Goals be replaced? I don't know with what, but if they replace
that's the problem. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's the other issue.
I would love it if they replace it with anything. I'd say the BAFTAs, not because of what they did this year, just because we'll get out of the same old. We'll be looking at some different movies, talking about some different people.
Well,
all
yeah,
that.
I think
But-
what's going to happen though, and I'm just, I'll be honest and upfront. I'm a little privy to this. I think what's going to happen is the major networks that have award shows currently, you're going to see a lot more auxiliary award shows pop up that create sort of like a balance, because contractually it's going to be difficult for them to do away with the Golden Globes. But to prevent any backlash, you're probably going to see like a show like the NAACP Image Awards. They're going to become worth a lot more, and you're going to see them get a bigger cut and a bigger piece of the pie from the networks, because what they're going to do is they'll be like, okay, yeah, you don't like us having the Golden Globes, but we got this other show that caters to Hispanics in cinema or Blacks in cinema, and here's their show, and
That's a
here's
great
how much they're
segue.
worth.
Yeah.
That's a great segue to the all I'm thinking
Yeah,
about is
you
the
think about
NAACP.
basketball.
Right,
You
that's
think
all
about
I'm thinking
basketball.
about.
I do the same thing.
That's
You think
all I'm
about the
thinking about
tournament.
right
You
now,
think about
'cause it's happening this
NAACP, man, the
But
colored
before
folks
you go, I
organization.
really
No,
want
I'll
you to-
stay. I'll stay. I got time. I just
is
got a text. I got time.
that's a good segue to the NAACP Image Awards. And the question really is about that. Does anybody care? And I'm going to tell you right now, I care. I care, and I care a lot. I just want it to be better. I absolutely care, because there are, when you look at some, just recently, just this year, because they did a 5-day like on-screen awards thing. And if you look at some of the movies that got or some of the people that got awards, you got the John Lewis Good Trouble got one. You have Mr. Soul got one. You have Rada Blank who got one. And I'm a Rada Flint fan. And I'm saying, okay, if you guys don't like us, or you don't watch the movies, because I don't believe you watched all those movies. If you haven't watched those movies, I care. And then I care on another level. There are books and other literary things that get shine that would not get any shine from any place, anywhere. So I care about the NAACP awards. I just want it to be better, and particularly as it relates to on the film side. There are some real problems and some holes there. I'll go to you, Katya, on this
Well, they have the opposite problem that the Globes have. They don't get the stars to show up because they don't value that award. No, they don't get the same type of. Here's the thing is, right? Some people don't go to these award shows unless like Jay-Z and Beyonce show up. That's one of the major critiques of this show. They don't get the big Black stars to always consistently show up like they do for some of these other awards. You know what I mean? The other thing that I have an issue with the Image Awards is how you're going to give preferential treatment to white media at a Black award show than over to Black media. Black media is still sitting at the end of the carpet at a Black award show. That's a problem. The other thing is like you said, is there's a credibility issue, right? The nominating, they overlooked a lot of Black. This was an excellent year in Black film, but it's not represented in these choices. So you have a little bit of a double-edged sword. It is a little bit of the running joke. Unless you are nominated, some of these stars don't show up to support. And again, if we're going to talk about these other award shows, we need to hold our own people accountable and be like, why didn't you come? Why didn't you come to
I think
our
it might get better. Go ahead, Sean.
Well, you also, like you said about the Globes, you were saying we need to know who the members are. We need to know who's voting for the NAACP Image Awards. You said put the Golden Globes people's pictures on the website. The NAACP, they got to put their nominating and voting members like on the website. We need to know, like, because the film stuff's been embarrassing. It's been embarrassing for a long time. This year was exceptionally embarrassing because of the richness and diversity you have within the community. And to have the BAFTAs actually recognize a better batch of stories about the Black experience than the NAACP Image Awards there's 100% no excuse for that. Like there's everybody who's on the committee right now should be fired and never allowed to vote again. And I am dead serious. And they got to be transparent about this, because the Image Awards could really put itself in a position to excel, but they gotta be credible. You gotta be credible, guys. I beg of you, and I know people at the Image Awards, I'm begging you, please put together a better panel of people who vote for the Image Awards. It makes no sense that I'm sitting right here talking on camera as a American Film Institute juror, but yet I can't vote for the Image Awards. That's silly, that's sad, that's inexcusable.
Wow. Well, we got one last topic that I want to get to is but I do want to make a point is that Sean, your point about you've been hearing some of the talks and they might try to bring some of these satellite things up is that when the Image Awards switched from whatever station it was,
TV, it went to TV1 to Viacom.
To Viacom.
Yeah, it's on Viacom. This is why they're broadcasting over the Viacom network of stations on Saturday.
The viewership went up like 448%.
Well, yeah, because it went from being on TV1, which is basically non-existent, to being on the Viacom platform where they could put the show on CBS, they could put the show on BET, they put the show on MTV, they put the show on VH1. So it's on the whole entirety of the Viacom platform, which is smart. And because of everything that's recently happened, look for even bigger and better things to happen with the NAACP Image Awards, because you can the production of the show is going to be a lot better this year because the checks are bigger. I mean, a lot of things are lending itself to where this becomes a really prominent award show. So they're going to make a nice rebound because they were almost left for dead a couple of years ago because that TV deal they had with TV1 was garbage.
Yeah. Well, good stuff. Last thing I'd like to get you guys to comment on, and that one is the day and date for Disney. I know you chomping at the bit on this one. Go ahead, Sean. Go ahead.
Because you know what this is about. Like the entire industry waits.
Explain what the day and date is, though, because
that's when you release a movie the same time theatrically, which means in a movie theater or on a streaming platform where you can watch at home. And there are only two entities that can make a difference with this. It's Netflix, it's Disney. What those two do, everyone else does. And Disney has more sway in this because Disney has a bigger theatrical presence than a Netflix. If this is the new standard and if this is what Disney's pushing, day and date is here. Game over, end of story. Because Disney has the IPs where it matters most.
Where it absolutely matters most.
Where it matters most.
I know everything is about the money. I do think I know everything's about the money. I do think this was a response to the consumers saying that we're not sure if consumers are going to go back, but we are hearing some people saying, I gotta go back. So for those people who gotta go back, we're gonna put it in the theater and you can go back. But for those people who we know are never going back, we're gonna make it $30. You can pay $30 and you can come on in.
The twofold thing too, right? We are right now in the middle of a vaccine rollout. Some people are like, I'm not going until I'm fully vaccinated. That vaccine rollout is going, like in my state, it's going horrible. In other people's states, it's going really well. So you have a little bit of that additional health concern. I'm one of those people, I was like, I'm not traveling or anything until I'm fully vaccinated and I have my 2 weeks period. Point. I'm not coming off of that. I'm halfway there. And the other thing too is like you said, is we still are in an economic crisis. A lot of people financially are far from having rebounded. Financially, it makes more sense. If you are a family of four, I say this all the time on social media, before you even grabbed a can of popcorn or anything, you are already $60 in. So by you paying $34.99, $35, you already won because you're at your house and you came ahead and you can stop the movie, the kids can go to the bathroom, you're going to be ahead on snacks, all of this other stuff. So financially, it makes more sense for you to stay home. The other thing is, people are just not comfortable to go back to the movies. I think it was you, Sean, who said it probably won't be until fall of 2022. Depending, because we still got a lot of craziness going on, especially with spring break being done now. We don't know what the fallout is from that.
Except there are some people just really chomping at the bit. Like
not that many.
Like all those people that went to Florida for spring break. The only thing I'm saying is that I think that this is a direct response to say, okay, I'm gonna capture you however I can capture you.
And it makes more business sense because
the way this is gonna hurt and we've talked about this, we only have a few minutes left, is that the way this is going to hurt the theaters is immensely, because the deal that they're doing, is unlike the deal that I think Warner Brothers did, is where there's with their VOD, they're saying, hey, we'll give you some of those revenues. Disney has not said they're going to give any penny,
Disney don't
no
share
revenues whatsoever. And they were relying on Black Widow to kick off the season. So the big thing here is they were waiting. They were like, okay, we know everything is lousy, but Black Widow's coming.
And what's Black Widow? A Marvel movie.
It's a Marvel movie.
They pin their hopes on a Marvel movie, and it ain't happening. But let's not forget, and this is the reason why I love this show and I love your platform, Reggie. We got to remember, we can't have any love loss or sympathy for the movie theater exhibitors, because they basically practice cinematic gerrymandering.
Right. You didn't care about me.
Dude, they didn't. Like right now where I live in Kansas City, Missouri, the last theater that existed in the downtown area closed due to the pandemic was the Alamo Draft House, which means officially, if you live in the middle of the city, there was nowhere to go to see a movie. You have to jump in your car and drive to a suburb that's either north, south, east, or west. That doesn't service a lot of people who look like us. It's their fault.
And the other thing, you know who's going to win? Once again, these independent drive-in theaters, they're going to have a good summer, because again, people really enjoy doing that. And that's where you have a lot of minorities who have their foot in that business. There's a couple in North Jersey, and people were like, Black owned, we're going to go and support. Again, I mean, it's like Sean said, you had a whole year to reinvent your business model, to come up with something to get people to come to the theater. You don't even got a new snack family.
Well, they had
family movie night. Like
they had
you're offering
decades.
the consumer nothing other than a movie.
Man, they had decades. They told AMC to get on this streaming thing 15 years ago. The movie theater exhibitors treated modern technology the way newspapers treated the internet. And look where newspapers are today.
Yeah. No, it's a really good point. That has to be it. But I really want to say that when you said, both of you guys said that they had some time to get their act together, is that one of the other things that you put in the thing, Sean, for this week, which we can't talk about, is the inability of people to be creative during this 1 year hiatus. I really want to get into that, because
let's do it next week, because I thought that was weird.
But I'm sure. But here's the thing: is little Billy, who manning the popcorn machine, probably gave him about 5 good ideas, and they played them. So guess what? That's where they're at.
I thought that was the weirdest thing. That was the weirdest thing. We will talk next week. That was weird. But you need to submit this show to the Emmy so we can win an Emmy on this one. There's a lot of fire commentary on this one.
I like it.
This was good, man. Katia was killing it, man. She was, man, dude.
Suzanne, please, no more. I can't.
God.
I mean, I was like, that's how I kicked off my first Sundance with Native Son. I was like, I did not come all the way this way.
It's heartbreaking.
I said, this cannot be the tone set for the thing. Thank God. Filing day, it's writing itself.
It's hard. It's heartbreaking. We'll touch more on it next week. It's hard. I think we're spreading ourselves too thin.
Something else.
We're spreading ourselves. I like the opportunity that we're getting, but I think we're starting to spread ourselves too thin. We need some quality. But I would like to end the show to say congrats to Rada Blank. She should be winning Best Screenplay at the Oscars.
Exactly. They should have pushed her harder for Best Original Screenplay.
You know that's my film, man.
Why call a category original and you don't celebrate the most original thing that was written the whole year?
The most original thing.
It's the most original thing.
I really
Once again, I just said this. This industry does not like women at 40 starting over or taking off at 40.
No, that's not true. Chloe Zhao ain't young.
No, I mean, it really is unfavorable. And I will say this, if we're making room for award show, I would like to see the Gotham Awards on a bigger platform, because they do a better job too of distributing the wealth. Like, it's
someone's
really,
get that.
You can't, like, for us in the industry, we know what the Gotham Awards are, but the general person doesn't. And they unofficially kick off the season. I would like to see them get some money to be on a bigger platform to push some of this other stuff as well.
My bold prediction of the week is the Golden Globes will be gone in 5 years.
Well, because they got 5 years left on their contract,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. See, you think I'm silly. Hey, I'm Reggie Ponder, the Real Critic. This is the Real Critic Roundtable, where African American critics come to discuss, debate, and have some fun. We did all that today, and we'll see you guys again next week.
All right, man. This is good, man. It's behind the